Welcome to Tim's Take, and today we have a very special guest, Dr. Mallory Ray. She's Associate Extension Professor and Agricultural Business and Policy Education Director for MU Extension. That's a mouthful.
Thanks so much, Tim. It's a pleasure to join you.
Well, thank you for coming. And what does that mean, that you're the director of what?
So our Ag Business and Policy team really looks at how we can support farmers and educate lenders and tax preparers on understanding the farm finance side and farm business questions. We also look at different ag policies, and our group tries to support our on-campus FAPRI team, the Food, Ag, and Policy Research Institute, which looks at policies at a national level. We would like to take their information and make it more accessible to folks here in Missouri. When there's a new farm bill, our team jumps on sort of educating Missouri producers about those policy changes.
So really, this is that arm of extension. It's not so much on production as it is in marketing and how when it all comes down to the end.
Yes, keeping good records, making sure you really understand when you're ready to invest in your business and expand and grow and don't get over leveraged and all of that good stuff. We do a lot on budgeting and pricing your products.
You know, my brother worked under you as a farm management specialist in the Delta region, and I'm an agronomist background, and he shot down so many of my great ideas because it didn't pencil out.
That's what we're here for.
That's what you're here for. You're the bearer of bad news sometimes, or you can help them get through those weeds.
Yes.
And that's what we're here about.
Yes.
Because you have a very special program called Intel for Ag.
Yeah, it's a free online website that's really built to help producers make more informed, stronger decisions about how they want to use their land and their property. So this tool, I think, has wide applicability across the state, and I appreciate the chance just to talk about it a little bit. Our goal is to get more people in the platform and using it. You can, especially if you're interested in sort of a non-typical, non-commodity form of agriculture. We've built a lot of resources to help educate producers and understand how viable these operations might be.
So some people may not like going to the web and getting all the information. Can they talk to a real live person too?
Absolutely. That's what we're here for.
So it's either you or maybe like my brother, the farm management specialist in the different regions, or
Yes. I'm an easy point of contact. My name is on the website, and I like to just kind of help direct people. We also have a place where you can just submit your questions, and we get those and respond. So
this is you shared with me some of your stats. 42% of all the farms in the U.S. are under 50 acres.
Right. A lot of people don't realize that.
Because we think of the large farmers, which are the bulk of the farm acres.
Yes, and they provide the bulk of our farm production too, right?
Of commodities or livestock.
They are critical to our farm system. This tool is not really meant for them. This tool is meant for smaller acres, or if they have a piece of their operation that they're looking to pivot and diversify, great. But this is not for the traditional corn, soybean, wheat commodity farmer.
Unless they want to diversify.
Yes.
And we'll get to that in just a little bit. So you're talking about, they could have 300 acres and still be part of this because they're good. Direct sale beef, for example, that could be something.
Right. We've seen a lot of growth in this concept of diversifying here in Missouri. And your example of direct marketing beef is great. Agritourism, often we see people combining that with some vegetable production. We have a robust set of farmers markets across the state. And that gives all of those opportunities are a chance for a producer to interact directly with their end consumer and capture more of that margin of the product and hopefully be more profitable as well.
Yeah, because I've heard customers say they're not as worried about if it's organic, for example, or non-organic. They're more worried about knowing their producer.
That's right. Think about a farmer's market. You can walk up and literally talk to the person who created that product.
Right.
You can ask them any question you want about that product, how it was made, the ingredients, down to when exactly did you pick this beet?
Right. This morning or
Right.
last week.
But that is a tremendous amount of information that does have value for some consumers. And we're seeing more and more consumers who do see the value of that and want to pay for that experience.
And you talk about experience. You touched on also that some customers want to come to the farm.
Yes.
And make the direct purchases there.
Yes. We saw a lot of growth in on-farm visits in the agritourism industry during COVID, when a lot of other entertainment options were kind of taken off. And suddenly the ability to be outdoors was really highly valued. And a lot of people got to Missouri farms for maybe the first time. Now, it's up to the agritourism operators to keep it fresh and keep getting people to come back.
Right.
And that's when we see a lot of entrepreneurship in that area, and they're adding maybe berry production so that you can come not just in the fall but in the summer to pick berries as well. There's adding the Christmas tree production, which takes years to mature, but then you're one more opportunity to get that family to come back to your farm, and have another sales transaction.
Or you may attract them with one thing, let's say a sunflower patch.
Yes.
I'm just thinking about that. But then also what you really make your money on is selling the produce.
Yeah, or the apple cider donuts.
Exactly. Yeah, because I've seen folks value add their stuff, not just selling the commodity,
right?
But also baking or making apple cider out of it, as you mentioned. So, and then the other thing I noticed is that 44% go out fairly quickly.
This is not an easy business.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're small scale, you often have constraints to your capital. You have constraints to your labor. You may be entirely relying on yourself, your family, your friends, which can work in the short term until something happens. And the more you diversify your operation, the more management skills, the more you need to be thoughtful about positioning yourself to the customer so that you don't overwhelm the customer with choices or get lost in now I'm just like everybody else and my customer can't find me anymore. It takes a lot of skills. And what we have found when we work with producers who are in this space, they often don't spend enough time thinking about the economics of it. They get really excited about the dream and the goal, and you can kind of spend way more money than you realize, or be underpricing your product to the point that the more you sell, you're literally losing money because you haven't adequately factored in all of your costs.
And this website can help with that.
That's right. This website has a bunch of different resources, but one of the areas I'm super passionate about is the market intelligence piece. And this allows any farmer in the U.S. to enter an address in the continental U.S. And then choose a radius between 10 miles and 100 miles of that address. And it's going to generate a report on who lives in that radius based on census data. Mm-hmm. So it's going to tell you this many people, this is their average median income, these are the nearest communities, this is their estimated demand for local food broken out in a bunch of different categories like fruits and vegetables and meat. And so it gives that producer a quick look at who is in my immediate area, how far out should I be trying to attract my customer. And also on there, we have pricing tools that help a producer really look at their cost of production when you get post-harvest. So what are you putting into each of your products, and from a packaging, other ingredients, your time and labor, processing equipment, so that you know your break-even price, revenue, and units. And then we also have a separate tool because we develop these things by working directly with producers, and they identify that, hey, this is my pain point. So we had a lot of people that just did not understand their cost of production for that processed value-added item. Then, as we worked with more producers, we had those producers that were looking at scaling up, and maybe they want to go beyond their initial market, whatever that was, a farmer's market or a CSA. And they were particularly interested in wholesale accounts, but they were not sure how much they could afford to discount their price. The wholesaler wants the discount.
Sure.
The trade-off between that price discount and expected volumes, and every market channel has different specific costs. If you want to sell to a grocery store, you just need more regulations. You need to comply with more food safety regulations. You need more certifications. All of those things have costs. So there's a tool on this website that helps a producer walk through the market channels they're either currently in or interested in so that they can understand the additional cost to being in that market.
Wow. That really covers a lot of material, then, doesn't it? It really does. So back to the location, then it tells you how many people you have and expected. Does it take in the household income?
Yes, it does. It shows that. It also tells you age, race, and ethnicity. It just talks about those people. A lot of times what we find, successful businesses in this space need to find their niche. Who is their target customer? And we know people's preferences for products vary a lot by age, income, race, and ethnicity. And so the more you are cognizant of this and the more you can interact with potential customers, the more you can learn how to really position your business to speak to that target customer.
Right. Wow, that's, because that's amazing, because I was always think you need to be near a large population to make something like this work.
No.
You can be in the most rural area of Missouri and make something work.
If you try hard.
But you got to have something that they like.
You got to have something that they like. You've got to be competitive. You've got to let people find you. And if the more rural you are, the more you need to be a destination, right? You've got to make this a true experience. You've got to get people to come. And it's even better if you can kind of link up with other destination spaces in your area, right? The more rural you are, though, this tool will help you actually assess. Let's go back to farmers markets, because this is what I think is a very good opening place for someone to start marketing their product. Simply because, like you and I are sitting here, I can look you in the eye as my potential customer, and I can also ask you questions. Hey, what brought you to the market today? What kind of products are you looking for? How often do you eat beef? Are you looking to build this more into the center of your plate? Let me talk about the values of my farm, and I'd really like to help you understand how to get more beef on your table. And I want to know, are you interested in like a whole, a half, quarters? Or smaller bundles,
Sure.
Right? Like what kind of freezer space do you have? And very quickly, you can elicit a ton of customer research that's firsthand. Now, it's great if you have somebody else there who can kind of keep doing sales, but also like be taking notes. Right.
Well, I have a friend that does direct sales at a farmer's market of beef. And he's very interested. And he found that his customers are okay with grain finished beef as long as it's not corn.
Really?
Because of the GMO factor.
Oh.
So he's looking at non-GMO type of finishing. So that means he has to raise it himself or know his sources. And so but again, that opens up new markets.
Absolutely.
It makes him special.
Yes. I've also seen people market grain-fed beef as traditional beef, right? You know, it's about positioning the value of your product, being able to talk about those values in a way that resonates with the customer. And in your example, well, that's a pivot that producer can make, right? Maybe they can't pivot to grass, but here they can pivot and satisfy customers.
Sure. But now, so let's say I love, though, to raise beef, or I love to raise blueberries, but I don't want to go through this marketing stuff. Kind of like me, you met my brother a while ago. He's the farm management. I'm the grower. But do you help connect people then to get these larger groups together?
Well, we're not exactly.
Okay.
What we like to do is educate people about their options and encourage them to network locally, because that's like a really good place to start. And what I've found is that in this specialty crop space, A lot of times you will find producers that are very willing to work with somebody else, to coach them, to give them some tips, to bring them on farm and show them, hey, this is how I do things. And MU Extension does a lot of this. We set up programs and we bring people on farm so that others in the community can learn from this particular mushroom grower or apple orchard producer. And I think that's really great. And every producer has to be really honest with themselves about what is within their desire. Like, what are their goals for their business? What are they truly capable of doing? Because you're absolutely right. Not everyone wants to be that face-to-face with the customer.
Right. Well, others love it.
Others do. So if you don't love it, you need to look at some other market channel opportunities, or you need to find ways to connect with those farmers who do love the public nearby. A lot of agritourism operations sell products from other farms. They aggregate, and they want to do that because it gives the customer more of a reason to browse and shop. And they see that as the net benefit. They want to keep that person in their store longer, but they may not have the capacity to grow everything in that store. So it's a win-win.
Like I might be growing lots of berries, but then someone else could grow some fresh vegetables.
Right.
That we have year round too. So yes. Mm-hmm. So that's great. But also, so that becomes more of a destination then, doesn't it?
Yeah, it gives people more of a reason. They're, don't just come for the one item, just the berries.
Right.
Come and buy more.
Because, you go into a local convenience store. For one thing, you'll come out with 2 or 3.
That's right.
It's the same principle.
More if you have your kids with you.
Yes, our grandkids for me. Yes. One thing that you also mentioned was when you get a budget, pay yourself.
Yes.
People forget that, don't they?
Oh, please. Yes, they forget it all the time. But that's one of our mantras. We just really try to help people understand the value of their time and the opportunity cost, right? There's a lot of things you can do with your personal time, with your land, with your equipment, your assets. Be creative, be passionate about it, but don't forget to truly account for those costs so that you're either well positioned to scale, or you can truly decide when this is not the right fit for me. I cannot make a go of this. I need to pivot and try something else.
I've been to conferences where they'll have a farmer come in, a very successful farmer. And more often than not, they take time for family vacations. Mm-hmm. They have already calculated what their health going to cost, the health insurance, what they can provide for their workers. All of that has to come into the play. So you have a good quality of life.
Yes. There's so much passion in agriculture. It's one reason why I love working in this space, although I'm no longer farming myself. But I think we have also let a lot of burnout happen and a lot of, mental health and stress accumulate because not enough people have prioritized those things you just talked about. And truly, I try to help farmers see their farm as a business, and that gets you run out of the room some days.
It's a lifestyle too.
Oh, sure. And it's an identity and it's a passion. Mm-hmm. But let's also try to treat it as a business so that it does stay sustainable. And that's when you do that, it's more easy to transition that business to the next generation or another successor. But if we keep everything in the dark, if we don't have good records, if we have no idea what's really going on financially, well, that's when we see a lot of farms that don't successfully transition as well.
Years ago when I was a kid, an older couple were transitioning their farm to their daughters and their families, and they made a comment, "Well, we just did this for fun." It was fun to them, and profits. They probably made them, but that wasn't their forefront.
That is true. We still see that today. There were a lot of people that sort of decided to do a big lifestyle change during the pandemic as well, right? We heard a lot of stories and worked with people that, I'm here from California, or I'm quit my job in St. Louis. I could retire early. Now I own this farm in the Ozarks.
What did I do?
I'm excited, but I don't know where to start. Mm-hmm. And again, having Intel for Ag was really helpful because we could help them sort of, okay, you've got a lot of options. Mm-hmm. here's some questions to work through. Here's some concepts to consider. Spend some time on the website and then come back to us, right? Because there are the right answer about what to do is a complex one that depends on a lot of personal, but also like the actual production and financial resources.
Because you mentioned 30% of farmers have 10 years or less farming.
Yes. Was that number also surprising?
Yes. You think somebody grew up in this, so you can enter into the market.
Right. We know there's big barriers.
Mm-hmm. Land cost.
Yes, that's a huge one. And it's why we have people come to us and they don't have any land and they're super passionate and they are like, yeah, I just need to go out and buy 70 acres. Not necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about how you can step into this at a smaller scale. How can you lease some land? How can you really what are you trying to do with this? And let's maybe start a little bit smaller.
Yeah, I was surprised. I was at one of these conferences and a person was in a flower farm. That they started it more as a hobby for their kids, get them something to do. And now that's their full-time business on about an acre.
Yes.
But it's all marketing. They know their markets, and they sell a lot to florists, and they know what the florists want.
Yes.
Some of it's trial and error, but they've talked to the florist.
And that's a great point. If you're in this space, you have got to talk to your customer. Farmer's market, or if it's another business to business, you've got to be making the rounds, beating on doors, having conversations with people to truly figure out in your area, or if you're going to make the decision that I need to drive 30 miles or 50 miles, learn about that market and figure out the best way to pivot.
Because years ago, one of our retired faculty members started growing blueberries.
Oh.
It was over the hills and through the woods to get to there. And my dad said, yeah, it's the destination. That's why you want to go. You can get blueberries in the store if you want to, but half of it is driving, making a 30-minute drive and getting to pick your own.
Right.
That's what people want.
Right. That's right.
And what he did, so he had his blueberries, then he had Christmas trees. So you see his Christmas trees growing over there. Oh, I'm going to come back.
Exactly. That's how they get you. I mean, but truly that is the value of having land and we may not, if you grew up on a farm, you may not always perceive that value, or you may overlook that value of just being in a rural setting without a lot of traffic, just some rolling hills, which we've got a lot of that here in Missouri. And it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. And it really can just reduce people's stress and just,
Well, when I was a kid, I grew up on the farm and we'd go camping. We slept in. This was our first time that we could sleep in, where everybody else around us was up at the crack of dawn. Why do we do that for? I'm on vacation. But we take that for granted, don't we?
We do.
That other people want to experience that.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned sometimes people want to scale up. Now, I've heard an entrepreneur, you've watched Shark Tank and those type of things. Is that scaling up? That's where you can fall over the cliff, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. I mean,
you're good at doing it as a supplemental income, but then trying to get it as your sole income, that can be issues.
Right. So one of the challenges is that as you are trying to scale, you quickly outpace your labor available to you. And equipment in some of these specialty crop industries can get very expensive very quickly. So that truly, to be at that scale, you either need to find a custom harvester to work with you, or you need to get big enough that you can justify and pay for that equipment cost. Because having 10 acres, you may need the same equipment as if you had 50 or 60 or 70.
Right. And equipment share could be a part of this.
That's right. That's another great reason to always get to know your neighbors. If you're new to in agriculture or new to farming, find those other entrepreneurial people around you. They're there. You may just have to look for them a little bit and drive a bit, but that's how you open up the door to conversations about more, equipment share and leasing.
And you also talked about talking to other farmers. Are you worried about saturating a market?
Yes. At a very local level, I'll go back to farmers markets. Farmers market managers will turn vendors away when they have too many of the same kind because they want to see vendors succeed. So each farmer's market can only support so many meat producers, so many bakers. Vegetables are generally kind of the one area where the more the merrier, but that's one example of market saturation. However, there's so much opportunity to differentiate yourself in this space. That's why a lot of producers are very transparent and willing to work with people because they don't see them as competition. They see it as, okay, here's another opportunity to have a space, have a reason to get a customer out here to collaborate and offer more.
Well, I even have some friends that at the farmer's market, and they'll say, I'll go everything vegetable-wise except tomatoes. I'll let the other folks grow the tomatoes.
Yes, tomatoes are highly seasonal unless you're sophisticated enough to grow them in a high tunnel. And if you can, then you can capture a huge market premium.
Early, yes.
Yes. It's like, how quick can you get that tomato to that farmer's market? The one that tastes way better than the grocery store. But if you're not that good at growing tomatoes and you're only producing them at the height of the summer when everybody else also has tomatoes,
why?
Yeah, you might be losing money.
Right. Oh, yeah. Well, let's wrap it up for this segment, and we'll talk to you next time.